All right, so welcome to the Well Actually podcast. I am your host, Toju. Thank you for joining us. I'm joined by a special guest, someone I met recently when Odomodu Black was in the studio, and I was sort of fascinated by the workflow about how music gets recorded, how music gets made, and all the different parts that go into it. So go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
So my name is Phil, aka Philly the Kid. That's my IG name. I'm an engineer, and like you said, we met last week, um, doing the session, and yeah, we had a good conversation, and it sparked kind of what we got going on here. So excited to talk to you.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. So before we dive into it, I hope that this will be able to clear up like some, I don't want to say like misunderstandings, but like misconceptions on how the music gets made, who's responsible for what, uh, just how integral like different parts of collaboration come together and can make things happen. All right, so the first part that I wanted to get into with you, and we kind of got into a little bit last week, was how did you get into all of this? Like what, like your origin story?
Cool. So my origin story. So I started off as a software developer actually. So I went to
Oh,
school with for IT. I went to Penn State, 4 year degree, graduated in IT, and I worked 3 years as a software developer for this insurance company.
okay.
And it was exactly what I went to school for, and it was great money, especially coming right out of college. And um, but it just wasn't fulfilling for me. After the first year was cool, but um, the first paycheck that I got, I stashed it. The second paycheck that I got, I bought a MacBook Pro,
Okay.
and then the third paycheck I got, I bought a MIDI keyboard. So I just started making beats ever since. I
Oh,
was just like living in my at my parents' house. I was just working out of my parents' basement. So I would just do my 9 to 5, come home, and have my dinner, watch my shows or whatever, and then at night I'll go down to the basement and start cooking up. I linked up with a friend of mine. Uh, he was an old friend, old neighborhood friend that I met way back when I was like when I first moved into the neighborhood, like around
oh
like
wow.
when I was like 4 or 5 years old. Like we knew each other way back then. We reconnected, and I later found out that he was into music and he was an aspiring artist.
Okay.
So the fact that I was an aspiring producer and he was an aspiring artist, we lived in the same neighborhood. It just made it easy. So every day after work, I would just hit him up whenever I was ready, and he would pull up. I would make all these beats for him. He would sit there, record. It wouldn't just be record the whole time. We would hang out. We would talk. We would vibe. We would take a walk throughout the neighborhood or whatever. Come back, and that's kind of what started everything. And I just got better and better. And we had this certain level of consistency that made us really feel like we were confident in what we were doing. And as that was growing, my hatred for my 9 to 5 was also growing.
I hear that.
So there got a certain point where I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do the 9 to 5 life. I couldn't do the office job, and I decided to quit on my 3 year anniversary.
Ooh,
Yeah, like on
poetic.
yeah, I
Okay.
know, right? It's on the dot, like June 22nd.
Damn.
Um, so I quit not knowing what I was gonna do, and I knew I wanted to do something in music, but that wasn't like set in stone yet. Um, so I started looking into, I was open to the idea of doing an IT job again, but it had to be something that I enjoyed. So I'm from like the Philly area. I'm like
Okay.
half an hour north of Philly in Montgomery County. So I'm a Sixers fan, Eagles fan, and I saw a job that was posted for like something in the IT field in regards to the Sixers. So I was like, all right,
Okay.
let me apply for this, and never heard anything back from them.
Ooh.
And so I just started looking to other options. So I was thinking I'm a producer, but there's not there's not many options as far as like lucrative job opportunities as a producer to like go somewhere and continuously make money.
No stability.
Yeah, no stability in that. So I was thinking, okay, what's the alternative? It's like, okay, what's this engineering thing? So, all right, let me look up what audio engineering is, and let me see if there's schools in it,
Okay.
so I could, try to navigate through that. And I found SAE, which is a school of audio engineering in New York.
Okay.
Um, so I went for a tour for that school, and they kind of sold me on the idea, not just like what they were telling me, but just what I was seeing, and then the environment. Being in a place like New York is nothing more inspiring, nothing that gets you grinding more than New York
Yeah.
City. And
Okay.
I knew that I needed that mentality, so it was a perfect fit. So I ended up moving to Jersey, and I attended that school, and I just did Uber on the side. I was an Uber driver for a few years, so that's what I've used to get consistent income. And halfway through the internship is when I was eligible to. Halfway through the school year
Okay.
is when I was eligible to sign up to do an internship.
Oh.
So
Okay.
so as soon as I hit that half year mark, I went straight to the counselor. I was like, all right, 1, 2, 3. These are my top options. This is my number one. This is where I really want to go. And they helped me out with my resume a little bit. They had some conversation with me, make sure this is what I was ready for. And I was like, sign me up. So they sent the studio my resume, put the word in, and I got an email for a follow-up interview like very shortly after.
Nice.
And did the interview. Interview went well, and I became an intern there.
Okay.
And I've been working there ever since. So it's Quad Studios. That's where I ended up getting it.
So that's straight from the counsel's office to Quad.
Yep.
And how long
Yep.
ago was that?
That was, I want to say 4.5 years ago.
Damn.
Yeah. So 2018 is when I joined the school. So halfway through, so it was around 2019 of like around spring or so, like late winter, around there.
Wow. And
Yeah.
you've been rocking with Quad ever since.
Yeah, I've been grinding up the chain.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
sure. Yeah, and it's been one hell of a journey so far.
So how do you like it so far? Like, is it everything you imagined when you went to that open house the first time they told you about audio engineering?
Oh man, beyond. Yeah, I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Like I really feel like I'm living my dream right now, and I'm not necessarily waiting for the destination in order to like enjoy what I got going on. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Like I really truly like appreciate the journey, and I love this shit. Like I'm really like I'm grateful every single day. Like I started off as an intern, and I was working 3 days a week doing this and covering people and taking every opportunity that I can, networking and all that. And then one of the front desk managers happened to quit, and they asked me to fill in that role.
Okay.
So before I became an actual engineer here, I became a front desk manager.
Okay.
So that was real big for me too. So I can like understand the business side of things, seeing how things operate, and communicating with upper management here and the ownership, and seeing how communication goes between labels and A&Rs and all these different characters in the music industry. So I was able to get that aspect of it, and then through that is when I started working myself into the engineering role, and I didn't do it the normal route. Like usually you're an intern and then you become an assistant and then you become an engineer.
Okay.
But once I became front desk, I kind of went off the path a little bit.
Okay.
And a lot of times when people become front desk, people were telling me not to. They were like suggesting like, "Yo, don't do this because if you do front desk, you get stuck there." Like that's how like it's been in the past. Like before, people have done it every now and then, but the likely thing that happen is if you get at front desk, then you're stuck there. Like, but you need to have a certain level of drive and like want to be able to. When they first told me about the front desk position, I was like, I'll do it. I'll gladly do it. I feel like I'm fit for this role.
Okay.
But I'm here to be an engineer.
Okay.
I made
So
sure I made that clear.
don't lose sight of that.
Yeah,
That's what
don't
you
lose
told.
sight of that
Okay.
for sure.
So what were some of the roles like as an intern before that, like that switch over to front desk? Like, was it like coffee runs? Was it sitting in on taking notes and stuff like that, or what was that like?
Yeah, all the above. It was coming in the morning, sweeping the floors, taking the trash out,
Oh, damn. Okay.
you know, dusting, uh, going and getting equipment from audio stores. Um, it's, the list goes on and on. There's just going on runs for clients. Like if they need you go to this Italian restaurant, pick me up this. Go to McDonald's, pick me up burgers and fries. Like whatever the case is. Like
Damn, okay.
you just do whatever it is that you're asked.
Okay.
So that's and there's that, and then there's also the opportunities that I had to assist sessions too.
Okay.
So I had a lot of opportunities to, sit down in a chair right next to one of our quad engineers and just watch, be a fly on the wall, and just learn, take notes, don't interrupt anything. Like studio etiquette is huge here. Like if you're not proper when it comes to being in the room and speaking when you're spoken to type of thing, especially when you're intern, then you're not cut for it. But yeah, just taking advantage of those opportunities was definitely the highlight of being an intern here, because it ended up working out in the long run.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely did. So you said partly through your story, you said that when you started, you were going the producer route.
Right.
So for my education and for the listeners and the viewers, what would you say is the biggest difference in like responsibility and role between a producer and an audio engineer?
So the producer is, so the term producer gets thrown around a lot, and it has like several different meanings. So when I was using the term producer, I meant it in terms of like a beat maker.
Okay.
So like the one who's actually curating and making the beat from scratch.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's what I was referring to in terms of what I was doing. There's an overarching term as far as a producer, in terms of like someone who puts shit together. Like for example, like DJ Khaled's not sitting here making beats.
Okay.
But he's putting things together. Like he's a producer. Like in the rawest term. Like
okay.
he's really putting things together. I want this artist on this beat. I want this. Putting everything. Diddy's doing the same. Diddy just dropped an album like last week. He's a producer. He's of that. So when I was talking about it, it was in terms of beat making. So as far as being a beat maker, is creating a beat from scratch. That's the more creative side of things. Engineering is more so being in the studio with the artists and recording them, making sure the levels are right, making sure it sounds good, making sure that you kind of gotta feel it out too, because depending on the type of artist, depending on the caliber of artist, they may need some assistance in terms of like, oh, you should say it this way, or you should put this word here, kind of being like a vocal coach type of thing.
Oh, so that's
producer.
part of your role as well.
It all depends on whatever your environment you're in. There's like the thing about working here is there's such a wide range of caliber of the clientele. You can go from one session of the client this is their first time ever in a studio.
Okay.
And then the next day you have a session with a top tier A-list superstar rapper.
Okay.
So the range of abilities as an engineer, like you got to be able to maneuver and shift with whoever you're working with, because the roles are different.
Okay, so it's like a case by case basis.
Yeah,
then, not,
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, case by case basis for sure. But as far as like the general gist of engineering is recording the artist onto the track, making it sound as professional as possible. That's like the gist.
Okay, so
Yeah.
have you had like any instances where you wanted to provide like some creative direction and they were either accepting of it or like they resisted what you were giving them?
Yeah, for sure. There's most of the time whenever I give any sort of input, it's accepted, and then they try it out and it's like, oh cool, like that worked out, and then there's more trust that's there between me and the artist. There's other times where I'll say something and then they'll try it out and it's like, that one didn't really work as well. And there's also times where you'll try to say something or suggest something and they just kind of like shrug it off, like nah, like, and you kind of gotta get the idea and understand that, like, a lot of times there's artists who are sensitive about their work. They have there's a pride thing there, or an
Right.
ego, whatever the case is, and you gotta kind of be able to read that and know when it's like, all right, this guy's not trying to hear nothing from me. He just wants me to record him.
Yeah, and don't
Record
take it
him.
personal.
Don't take it personal and make it sound good. You can't take nothing personal in this. Like just take whatever you get to you. Just take it to the chin and move on. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's more about like the sort of creative direction between you and the artist. Have you ever witnessed like differences of like creative opinion between members of a group or between artist and producer?
For sure. For sure.
How did that go?
Yeah. So a lot of times, sitting at this seat, in front of the board, engineering, the artist who's in the booth. A lot of times there's other people in the group, and you kind of gotta evaluate everyone's role too as you're in there, because there could be someone sitting right next to me, and he's kind of directing things and like saying, okay, like tell him to do this, and like there's a talkback button right here, so it's like, all right, most of the time I'll just tell him, yo, if you need to tell him something, just click this button and talk to him,
Okay.
and kind of let them figure it out, because being the middleman could get messy, because it's like, wait, am I telling you this, or is he telling me this? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Okay.
if he's hearing it directly from his mans, then it's like, it's cool. But if I'm telling you, yo, you got to say this, then it's like he might feel a certain type of way
Yeah,
about it.
that third party access.
Yeah. So it's like, here, press this button and talk directly to him. But there's people with different roles. There may be someone in the group where, that's not necessarily what their role is, but they do it anyway. So you kind of, there have been times where I kind of like hear him say something in the background, but like I don't let the artist hear it, because I know that's not the wrong thing. I know that's not the right thing, and I feel like that would piss the artist off a little bit. So you gotta kind of be able to like, you gotta like move like water, kind of like, you gotta be shifty, and you gotta understand like what's going on in the room. Like, just as much as audio engineering is about technical ability, it's also about like emotional intelligence,
Got
and
you.
just understanding the vibe of the room. That's up there, just as important as technical ability.
So has there ever been like a session where just off the rip the vibe was not right? Like just like there's tension, there's conflict just from the beginning of the session.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
A- And does that like leak into the recording? Does that like interrupt things? How does that go?
Yeah, it definitely does, because there's working on both sides of this, in terms of like being on the creative side of being an engineer and also being front desk manager here. I get to see kind of what goes on behind the scenes and what pisses people off, like in terms of like, for example, there's times where an artist can book a room and then they would get bumped out of that room into another room because of whatever the case may be. Like, another artist booked it and the studio prioritizes that artist,
Oh,
type of thing.
okay.
So like the artist who got bumped will come in like, yo, what is this? It's not the room I booked. Like, come in with that type of energy. And as an engineer, you gotta be able to do the best you can to just suppress the situation and like make sure to make it clear that you're on their side,
Right.
like not on the
Like you're not the one that bumped them.
right. I'm not the one that bumped them. So it's funny because there was a crazy situation that I had. It was one of the very first times that I engineered a session myself.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, I was doing front desk at the time, and the client called in and told us that they were on the way, and there was some kind of miscommunication happening. I don't know whose fault it was, but they told us they were coming in ASAP, and it wasn't on our schedule. And then once I did some digging, I saw that they did in fact book and they did in fact pay.
Oh.
So, but we didn't have an engineer here for them. So, so I'm on the phone with them, telling them, "Hey, look, we got you. We're gonna take care of you. We're gonna make sure we have an engineer for you. I'm calling people, so just by the time you get here, we'll be good to go." I'm calling frantically. I'm like, yo, someone pick up. Someone tell me you can make it. It was an early session, and I went through like 5, 6, 7 engineers, and no one could make it, like on the spur of the moment type thing. And I was talking with the studio manager and the owner. Like, they're like, "Phil, you got to do it, man. You got to do it." I'm like, what? Like, at this point, I forget if it was my very first session or if it was 2 or 3 sessions in. Whatever the case was, I was not ready to be thrown in the fire like that. But sometimes that's just what it takes.
Right.
So I got thrown in the fire. So it's just, at first, it's actually in this room.
Okay.
So I was sitting in the chair. The guy walks in, and he at first he's cool about it. You know, nothing, no negative energy at all, until he starts like feeling me out a little bit, and then and he goes and records for a little bit, and everything's going smooth. And then out of nowhere, like 15 people, like 10 to 15 people of his, like, end up coming to the session. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, and the craziest part was that I swear to God, like six to 8 of them went into the booth at the same time.
Damn. Oh.
And they were like, they picked a beat and they were just like rotating between artists, like crazy fast, and like giving each other like, here's the headphone, like, all right, you go, all right, you go, all right, you go. And me being in that position that early in my career, like, I could not handle that at all. So they came all out here, and they were pressing me about it. They were like, "Yo, you mixed that yet?" Like, that was a crazy thing. That was one of the craziest things that I've ever experienced. Was I was sitting right here, one of the guys came around, and I turned around and looked at him, and he was like, "Yo, you mix it yet?" I'm like, "Yo, we literally just recorded it. Like, what you mean, did I mix it yet?" And then they were like complaining about like, oh, like my speed and the fact that I couldn't keep up with them, blah 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 blah, which was right. This was like way beyond like what I was capable of at the time, and even what they were doing was not even like feasible to record. You know what I'm saying? It didn't make any sense to just like, as the recording was going, just like pass the headphones along and just like keep going, like, as opposed to like doing takes.
Okay.
So then it got to a certain point where the main guy who booked it, he was like, he told me, he was like, "Yo, I recognize your voice. You were the one who was on the phone earlier." And I was like,
oh, damn.
Like, oof, this is like bottom of the barrel, worst case scenario. I got to a point where I stood up, and like I had like 8 of them like surrounding me.
Oh.
Like they weren't like gonna do anything. I think, but like they were like kind of like pressing up on me, like, "Yo, what's like, how did we just get finessed like this?"
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm on the phone with you telling me that you're about to find an engineer, and then you're the engineer, and you're not even that good.
Damn.
And like, so what's this? You're not an engineer. You're the receptionist. Like, and you doing my session? What's this? I'm never coming back here again. Type shit like that. So, yeah, I had to go through some horror stories to get to where I am now. So I look back in times like that, and I'm like, yo, I can't ever let this happen again. Okay. Like, I get into a situation like that, I'm gonna be ready for it. And like, if that same client, those same amount of people do that today, like, I'll be able to handle it. And it's not even the fact that like I'll be fast enough to record 8 people at once, because that's not even like what you're supposed to do. Like, it's more so I'll be directing, like, "Yo, hold on, like, you can't be all going at once like this. Like, let me situate it first." You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So that's what you do differently, like change it up from the beginning, like.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, not like giving yourself more work to do, like, you're directing it.
Be smarter about it. Like, set the pace. Like, you gotta take command of situations like that, because it's just not realistic to record 8 people at once who are passing the headphones along to each other.
So how did that situation like conclude? Like, what ended up like, with your bosses and all that?
Yeah, I mean they underst I broke down the whole situation to them. I was completely straightforward and honest, and it wasn't my fault. I got thrown in the fire, and like it was whoever booked that session without putting it down in the schedule. It was their fault. I just took the heat for it.
Right.
So nothing really fell on me. They just kind of like that's it is what it is.
Wow. So you said that was like a early morning like fill in for somebody else, and when I was here last week, it was like midnight to like 2 a.m. ish.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how do you like maintain like a work life balance if that's even a thing for you, with these like long and unusual hours?
Uh, yeah, I wouldn't even call it that. I wouldn't call it a balance at all because there is no real balance as of right now. At least I'm sure there's gonna be a certain point where I get to a point of balance, but um, I know I chose this lifestyle and I like completely accept it, and I'm like I got no complaints about it. Like there's times where I wake up, like for example like today, like I woke up at 6 a.m. so I can get here in time to do front desk, um, do front desk for 8 hours, and then I have a little bit of a gap period, which is where we're at now, and then I have a midnight session, from midnight to 4 a.m. So um, I'll be honest, like it sounds crazy, it really does, but I'm just I'm a humble guy, but I can like honestly say I'm built for this.
Okay.
Yeah, I can really say that. Like there's something about like I don't know, for some reason my body just like is able to hold up, and it's like it just hasn't broken down yet, and just like I just keep going. Like there's times where, you know, I'll go in for like I don't know, like 16, 17, 18 hours, whatever. And then the next day I'm in for 10 hours. The next day I'm in for 8. But I'll have those days where it's like I'm home all day. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of recuperate. And it's like I handle things at home, get some errands out of the way, maybe do some mixing at home, maybe make some beats and just chill out until I'm ready to come back and then do it all over again. So there is a balance in that sense where it's like, there are certain days where I have no intention on coming in the city or coming to the studio. It's just like I create my own schedule.
Okay.
So there's something there.
So how typical is like the midnight session, like, and is there like a different energy compared to sessions during the day? Like, how does that work for you?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's night and day, literally, figuratively, and like there's just two completely different vibes. Like I talk about it amongst like other people who work here at Quad. Like you're here during the day, like it's a completely different environment than it is at night. Like it just almost feels like an entirely different place.
So like, what's the biggest difference then?
The difference, it's tough to explain. It's just it's more of just like an energy. Like you feel at night. You kind of just like you feel that just there's just a lot going on outside, and people are here. They're ready to turn up. They're ready to get lit. They're ready to smoke. They're ready to drink. They're ready to record music. You know what I'm saying? Like daytime is more like it's a much more chill. Like you'll get people who come in, maybe by themselves or maybe like 2 or 3 people. A nice chill session. Most of the times it's just like they come here, they do what they gotta do, and then they leave. Everything respectful, all that. A lot of times at night, that's when things get rowdy.
Yeah.
That's when things are, and a lot of times it can be respectful still, and they're just people just having fun, and like I'm all for that type of environment too. But that's when people like to turn up. That's when people like to smoke. That's when people like to, it's nighttime. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
even New York City, like you feel there's a difference in energy between the day and the night. So that translates with the studio.
Yeah, I saw that firsthand. That was
Yeah.
that was a fun environment. I'll put it that way.
For sure.
All right, so I'll ask you this, and I don't want to put you out with anybody, but are there like specific genres that you find more challenging, and are there other genres that you find like more appealing to work on?
As far as challenging, Uh, yeah, I would probably say pop is challenging.
Oh wait, in what way?
Uh, in terms of like, well, for one, we don't get too many pop sessions here. Most of it is hip hop. Most of it's, there's hip hop, rap, R&B, some Afro beat. A lot of that. But pop is not too common. But when it does, I do come across one of those. Um, it's just like they're far much more meticulous and I would say more perfectionists that I've experienced that are in that field because you know any tiny little mishap of any note could be wrong and you would notice it. You can hear it in the voice because um, if you're singing, like it's much more. First of all, singing is as far as like vocally is more difficult to do in terms of like hitting the right note and things like
Okay.
that. So it's like um, I've had like sessions with singers where they would just do the same line over and over and over and over again and until they get it perfect, like, and then they would come back here, sit next to me, and we would just like go through all the takes and be like, all right, it could be like 10, 20, 30, 40 takes that we're going through, and like we're like, okay, boom, this section right here, we're gonna bring this down and we're gonna use that take. All right, how about for the bridge right here, we're gonna take this part. Wait, no, that one's not too good, let me just test out take number 17. It's like, all right, cool, that one's good. So and it's a lot more like airy and light. So it's like I said, if there's certain notes that weren't hit, or there any sort of like noise or squeak in the chair, or any background noise, or phone going off or anything like that. Obviously, in any case, that's bad. But it's amplified with sessions like that when where like every single note and every single sound is kind of amplified in that sense. Um, I've seen rappers like do one takes, like when they do like they hop in the booth and it's just like one take, boom, kill it, like maybe on the second take, maybe on the third take. So um, and a lot of times um, a lot of times people use auto tune too, so we have the ability to go in and correct things afterward and all that. And there's certain tools like Melodyne and things like that as well that not necessarily used for rappers. Sometimes there are, but that's more of a thing for singing. But there was a second part of your question. I don't think I.
Yeah. So which one was more challenging, and which one is more appealing to for you to work on?
Which one's more appealing? Um, I mean, I'm definitely in the lane of definitely enjoy hip hop more, and I love R&B. Like the more the older I get, I feel like the more I become an R&B head. Um, but I also love Afrobeat. I love. I'm African. You're African. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I really feel like inspired by it. I really feel like it's the future too, because not just Afrobeat. There's all these different lanes of African music, and too like I know I think it's is it Burna Boy who's calling it Afro fusion?
Yeah.
I think so.
He's calling it. I mean, he's trying to create his own lane in the
Right,
naming of it, and
right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, see, like that, I love it. Afro fusion. That's like dance hall. Even like the thing is that I just love so many different kinds of music, but it's tough to narrow down and pick like one particular kind that I love. But in the general umbrella of hip hop, like I would say that's got to be number one. But R&B and Afrobeat, they got a special place with me too.
What part of Africa are you from?
I'm from Eritrea.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
East
All right.
African
East
country.
Africa.
Yep, right above Ethiopia.
Got you.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
for sure.
So now that you mentioned like like Afro beats and like I don't even call it like emerging sound, but like what's hot right now. Have you noticed like a difference in the sounds, like either what producers are bringing in or what the artists are recording, based on like trends, or is there a trend that you yourself are noticing based on like what's hot?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say during my first few years of engineering here was like right around like 2020, 2021, around there, 2022. Um, yeah, I would say probably those first 2 years, it was heavy on the drill. It was like you couldn't escape it. Like it got to a point where like a solid 85% of my sessions were drill.
Damn.
Yeah, it was taking over because that was around the time where Pop Smoke, rest in peace, Pop Smoke.
R.I.P.
Uh, that was around the time where he was blowing up, and he would actually record at the studio. This was kind of his home base.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he would work in this room a lot. He would work all throughout this building. Um, uh, one of our um, one of our engineers, he was a chief engineer now, and even back then he was. He linked up with Pop Smoke, and he became his Pop's like engineer. Like he straight up said he doesn't want to work with nobody else besides him.
Big Corey, Big Pop Smoke, Big Yanni the Hottie.
else to record me, nigga.
Yeah,
I record myself
period.
before I let another nigga record
That's a
me.
fact. And that's on that.
What you say? Period.
Shout out Corey Cuts. Yeah,
Shout out.
Yeah, so that's part of the that's all part of the dream here. That's like a potential outcome of working with here, where you link up with a up and coming artist, and the chemistry is right, the abilities match, and just the chemistry is there to the point where like the artist just wants to only work with you, only wants to request you. It's like, so it gets from like, all right, every time I'm in Quad, then I want him. Then it's like every time I'm in New York, I want him. Then it's like, you coming with me.
Right.
Like
Okay.
wherever I go, like I'm flying you out and we're traveling together, type of thing. So that's definitely one of the potential outcomes from working with here, and people have different goals and dreams and stuff, but that's definitely something that someone can get from working at a place like this.
So how does that work? Being like when an artist comes in with their own engineer, how would that work in a situation like Quad?
See, that happens pretty often.
Okay.
It's pretty common for that to happen. So a lot of artists bring their own engineer, and it's just our job as Quad staff just to set them up properly and just have an assistant here in case they need anything.
Okay.
And they just let them do their thing, and they can call us, or they can like step out and grab us if they need anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned pop, you mentioned like Pop Smoke and pop music. Has there ever been like an artist interaction that you can remember that really sticks out, whether it's good or bad, but like an interaction that it still like rings bells with you like days, months, years later?
Yeah, man. There's a bunch. I mean, since we're talking about him, like the interaction I had with Pop Smoke himself, like there was one time where I was an intern, and I was told that Pop Smoke was downstairs and I had to go grab him. So I went in the elevator. I went down. Went out the elevator. And he was standing right there. It was just him by himself, and he got in the elevator and he was just extremely respectful. Like he was just like, "Yo, what's up, man? How you doing?" Like, and just talking to me just on a human to human level, like. And I was just, responding. I'm good, man. How you doing? How's everything? Blah, 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 blah. And it was just a crazy moment for me because, like, I don't get starstruck, but that was crazy in particular because earlier on in that day, that was when Welcome to the Party just came out.
Oh.
And I was listening to that shit. Like, I remember going on a run. I was, like, going down the street, and I was, like, bumping that shit in my head. I was, like, had my my headphones in. And I was just bumping Welcome to the Party. I remember like dancing to that shit on my way to go get my run. And I had no idea Pop Smoke was coming like later tonight. He wasn't even booked yet.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
So I got back, and then the night ensues, and then that happens, and it was just like a crazy moment because I had to tell him. I had to tell him because I'm like silent when it comes to like, you know, when I'm an intern and I'm face to face with an artist, like don't speak unless you're spoken to, be respectful, all that shit. So, and don't really like over talk or nothing. I'm not too much of a talker to begin with, so that's easy for me. But since that moment happened, I was like, you know what? Nah, I gotta tell him. So I was like, just like straight up, I was like, yo, I was just bumping your shit all day today, bro. I'm not gonna lie. And he was like, oh, word, which one? He was like, welcome to the party or Dior, because Dior was up and coming too.
Okay.
It didn't quite pop yet. So I was like, welcome to the party. He was like, okay, word, appreciate you. You know, look out for Dior, that one's up next. And I was like, at that time, I didn't even know what that song was, because it didn't really make any waves yet. But lo and behold, not too much longer, like that song blew up, got huge. So yeah, so that's one thing I always remember, just because of the fact that he just treated me with so much respect, and he knew that I assumed that he knew that I was an intern. You know what I'm saying? Okay. He was just talking to me just like straight up, being mad cool with me. So that's one thing that sticks out for sure.
Yeah. R.I.P. Pop Smoke.
Yeah, facts.
So let me switch it up a little bit, because you mentioned a while ago about how when like nighttime, people are like on a different vibe. People are like drinking, smoking, whatever. What's the most unusual request you've had to either procure for someone, or like to set the mood for the session, or like that you've been asked?
Oh man, to set the mood. Let me see. I gotta think about this one. Let's see. I mean there's certain writers that are pretty funny. So for anyone that may not know, writers are something that the artist requests before they arrive.
Okay.
There's some that I've seen where they wanted, it's not too crazy, but they wanted specific candles or specific flowers or like very specific candies and things like that that they request to have in their session before they walk in. As far as something that's really strange, like nothing's really coming to mind. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I have another equally strange question.
Okay.
So there's like the D'Angelo situation where he hopped in the studio for Untitled, into the booth naked, and then there's legend of Biggie getting dome while recording as well. So has there been anything that an artist has done in the booth that just had you speechless, or just was like, you've got to be kidding me?
Oh man. Let's see.
Or let me just put it this way: the most unusual thing you've seen an artist do in the booth.
The most unusual thing I've seen an artist do in the booth. Yeah, definitely can't name names.
Okay. Okay.
But I've seen an artist take an IV like while they were recording. Like they had like a doctor in here and doing it like and I think it was like water
okay, so this was for hydration, not for something party wise. Okay.
No. But
So
like,
they were
he was
hydrated.
doing other things for party purposes.
But
like that was like hydration purposes. But just the fact that there was a big ass like device in here, and there was a doctor, and he was like literally like taking it in like as he was recording.
Oh.
And
like with the headphones on and everything.
With the headphones on, and as he was, you know, taking other shit too. So that was definitely a first time for me. I never seen someone do that plus all these other drugs, drinking this, drinking that, like all at the same time. That was definitely one of.
I don't know if that counts as balance or.
Yeah, I don't know. We can call it that and make it sound nice.
Yeah,
but
okay.
it's something. It's definitely something.
Damn. Okay. So, back to when you had like the 8 dudes running up in the booth. Like other challenges. Like I don't want to say like challenging with like dealing with people, but have you ever had like a technical glitch, something where like while they're recording or it wasn't recording or things powered off or anything like that technical wise?
For sure, for sure. I feel like if you work at a studio, any studio that you work at, you're gonna have some kind of technical difficulties. Like no place is perfect, and we have plenty of that here. But most of the time it's a quick fix. But you just gotta be quick on your feet and just figure out what it is, because there could be a situation where, for example, I remember having this one session. Everything was going smooth, like nothing was wrong. Everything was, I was recording the artist and no complaints. Everything was going smooth. And then out of nowhere, I just couldn't hear him anymore. Like nothing, there was getting no signal out of the microphone. And just like, and it came from nowhere. Like it was working 1 second, the next second gone. Damn. And I checked everything. I checked every piece of gear. Or so I thought. And I checked everything besides just one thing. And I asked the assistant to help me out because I couldn't figure it out. And it just so happened that one of the artist's friends, he was sitting down on one of the credenzas with the gear, and his feet were like dangling, and like one of the gear that I was using, one of the compressors, the Tube Tech, he knocked the gain all the way down to 0 with his foot.
Wow.
By just having his like feet dangling. So I'm sitting here like wondering like what the hell's going on. Meanwhile, like he's in the corner and dropped that shit down to 0. So that was early on in the process for me too. So that was a new problem for me at the time. But ever since that happened, I was like, that's the thing. Like you go through all these technical issues, but like they collect like tabs in your mind where it's like, okay, that happened last time. Let me check that.
Right.
So it's like once that happens, okay, I'm gonna make sure that never happens again.
Yeah, add something to your checklist.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let me get you on this. What's your favorite or most memorable project that you yourself have worked on?
Project, like full project or just like a song or anything.
It could even be as condensed as a session, but like
gotcha.
so it could be a session, it could be a song, it could be an album, just like that you yourself have worked on.
Got you. Honestly, the first one that comes to mind is Capella Gray. You familiar with Capella Gray?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that was crazy because that was another situation where I was doing front desk again, and I got the call saying, "Hey, we're trying to book Q4, which is this room again, and we need an engineer, and we're going to be booking in, I think it was like in an hour from that moment, like an hour or two." And same deal. I was like, all right, cool. Let me take your information, figure out the rest of the booking process. And I was calling engineers trying to get someone in, and last minute shit again, no one came. But this time was a little bit different because I had a couple years under my belt, so it wasn't like a fear thing. I wasn't like, oh no, I can't be thrown in the fire. It was more like, all right, no one else is available, I'll take it.
Okay.
Type of deal. So I gave the front desk duties to the assistant at the time, and I came up here, set up my session, and they actually did tell me that the artist was Capella Gray, but at the time I didn't know who it was because he was just starting off.
Okay.
And this was actually right around the time where Gallus was bubbling, like, and that at that point, I remember homie of mine, Jibs, shout out DJ Jibs. He's an engineer here as well, and he was telling me, he was like, yo, you don't know Capella Gray? Gallus is huge in the city right now. I'm like, oh shit, my fault, I didn't know, because he's a DJ, so he knows he's tapped into what's going on. So I'm like, okay, word, noted. So session happens, they all come in, he rolls in like 10, 15 deep, and it's just like it's all just amazing energy, and I could just like feel like I could feel that they're in a moment right now.
Okay.
Like the people that he surrounded himself with, producers, the just there's his homies, A&Rs, the hype man, whatever the case was, like it was just all good energy, and they were like the producer was playing beats, and there's actually some video of it on Instagram from the cameraman that he posted, where he was playing some beats, and then everyone just had a reaction to it, and then Capella Gray just started like freestyling to it and just kind of started writing out here, and then eventually he was like, all right, let me go in the booth, and he hopped in there just freestyling some melodies, and then he got to it, and the whole session was such a vibe, and it was great music, and it was just such amazing energy, and the fact that they were, it didn't surprise me that they had like a hit in the city, because that's just the energy that they came with. You know what I'm saying? Like it felt like they were on fire. They were feeling themselves, and like as they should. And Capella Gray is one of the most talented people I've ever worked with, because he's just like, he's super musically inclined. He's very talented. He has a great voice. He knows exactly what he wants. He tells me, all right, I want the auto-tune set to this, to that, or boom, all right, cool. And that was definitely one of my favorite sessions. The song we made, we finished one song, kind of halfway finished another one. That was actually the song that he ended up releasing, the one that we halfway finished. He ended up being having a feature with Ty Dolla $ign on that song.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
But the other song, it never got released, but that one is still at the top of my list of favorite songs that I've ever recorded here. Like sonically sounds amazing. Like it was an R&B feel, so I love R&B, so that one hit the spot for me. So that was Capella Gray, definitely one of my most memorable sessions.
And what's it like when you hear a song you worked on the radio, or what's that? Have you experienced that, first of all?
Yeah. I've actually on the radio.
Or if you even listen to the radio.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't really listen to the radio too often. Like I see like for example, that song right there that I was referring to. Like I don't know if I ever remember like turning on the radio and hearing it, but I remember like watching his stories and watching people turn it on and.
Okay, but so
cars,
you've experienced like the radio vibe of like
right, for sure. And it's cool. Like it's a good feeling, but at the same time, it's like same deal. It's kind of the same concept in terms of like working with all these artists. It's like it's a cool thing to experience. I'm like super grateful for it, and I love it. It's like I said, it's part of the dream. I'm enjoying the journey. But I don't look at that as like crowning achievements or because nothing directly about my life has changed from that. It's more so like it's just part of the journey. So it's just like it's adding on to like what I'm doing with my life. But in order for me to get like really excited about something, and don't get me wrong, like I'm excited every day coming here, and I really love this shit. Like I'm so happy that I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, but at the same time, like I'm like laser focused, and I'm like I'm just head down work. Like, yeah, you can enjoy it, but it's more about the grind and more about focusing right now. Like the time, for me to really like sit back and enjoy what I got going on, like something like about my life has to like drastically change. Like,
okay.
So whether it's lifestyle or something that's actively happening in my life, or financially, or like a tour or an artist that I'm working with blows up, like whatever the case is, like something really has to drastically change for me in order for me to like allow myself to feel like a certain level of joy.
So in that vein, like, because you said like for you to like feel something new, something different has to occur. Are there any, like, I want to say, like, when it comes to like the production of sound or even the recording of sound, has there been like, what's the most unusual like instrument you've had to record, or even like a sound source?
Okay.
Because I can give you an example. So I was
Okay.
like, this was back when Versus was hot, and
Okay.
I think it was Lil Jon, and I can't remember who he was going against, but he was talking about like the squeaking sound in some cut, like where it's like it sounded like they're in the bed that.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, oh yeah, the bed part is like, it's like, nah, it actually wasn't a bed. It was in the studio, and he was like leaning the chair back, and that's what was making the squeaking. And he just told that person to do it again, and they sort of just recorded that, and that's what sort of formed the bed of that entire song.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like, so has like, it could just be like clapping, it could be like drums, like it could be pots and pans. Like, have you ever had to record something unusual like that?
Yeah, I would say clapping for sure. Lighter flicks and things like that. But I would say the strange things may like the requests more so come from like asking me to get certain sound effects. Like, can you get a sound effect on YouTube of like sex noises or some shit? You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay.
I've gotten that before. I've gotten like, yo, put some alien sounds in there. Put some obviously, there's get some gunshots, like the regular shit like that. So that's all the time. I've gotten like ocean sounds, like put some ocean sounds in there. I've had an artist ask me to make their voice sound like an alien before. Yeah,
Okay.
there's certain things that, as an artist, what you want to hear, but you don't exactly know how you can deliver that to the engineer. Like, how exactly do I express what I'm trying to hear to the? That's why it's important for there's certain artists who have some experience in engineering,
Okay.
and that helps out a lot because they're able to like effectively communicate with their engineer and be like, oh, I want this, yo, set my reverb to this, yo, put my tune on that, like the way Capella Gray was.
Okay.
And they ask me certain things, but if they're not too knowledgeable on that, then it's like, yo, make me sound like a dinosaur.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they got to go with shit like that.
Okay. All right. So I got two more questions for you.
Okay.
So, and this sort of like ties everything kind of back to the beginning. So you say when you come in for a session, you just set up. So walk us through what that setup looks like. Like, what exactly goes into your setup?
Cool. So, first you come into the room, you got to power everything on. Like, there's all the different gear. There's interface. There's a computer. There's the speakers. There's the Q box that connects to the headphones. So power everything up, and then you got to, all the gear that you're using for the microphone, whether like it's a preamp or a compressor or an EQ, whatever the case is. Just figure out what you're using, and then you go on the computer. We have all of our templates, like all the engineers who work here. We have there's a template that so we use Pro Tools here. Everyone
Okay.
uses Pro Tools, so all the engineers have their own template on Pro Tools on each computer. So you would go to the template, open that up, save it, have like 5 different folders ready and set up for you for the artist, and then you have someone go in the booth and do a mic check. That's very important. You don't want to start a session without a mic check because anything can go wrong. Anything you want to make sure the mic is on, the mic is working, the levels are good, you're not clipping. There's no latency latency meaning like there's no like delay, like there's no lag.
Okay.
Like if you speak, it's not like taking a second for your feedback to come in. So yeah, after you do a mic check, obviously you got to make sure everything's clean and everything's ready to go. So after you get all the technical stuff ready to go, set the vibe, set the lights, get the salt lamp going, make sure the AC is on. If it's like depending on the type of vibe that the session is gonna be, you could put on the game on the TV.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? there's certain times where it's like, you know, if you work with an artist before, maybe you haven't, like you might have a sense of like, all right, these people, they watch basketball or they watch football, let me put this on. There's other times where it's like, I don't think they'd be into it, so let me just have a plain background. You know what I'm saying? Like little things like that
Okay.
that make a difference.
All right. I know I said I had 2 questions for you, but I'll make this one a quick one. Who's the most famous artist you've personally worked with?
Ooh, personally work with. Okay. So worked with and been in the presence of 2 different things. So you're
So,
specifically saying
so both answers. Both answers.
Both answers. Okay. Cool. Worked with. Who's the biggest artist that I've worked with? It's tough to distinguish who's bigger between these few who I'm thinking of. Like,
Go here. Oh,
yeah, I mean, like Busta Rhymes,
okay.
French Montana, Shaggy,
Damn. Okay.
Gucci Mane. So it's tough to kind of level like who's one, who's
But
two.
and that's all here in quad.
Yes, all in quad.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all in quad. Those are the top, probably the top few for sure that I've worked with. I don't think there's a definitive number one. As far as who I've been in the presence of, it's a definitive number one for sure. It's Janet Jackson.
Really?
Yeah. She came. Actually, she worked in this room. Yeah, I didn't work with her,
Okay.
but you know, I was doing front desk that day, so I was in the vicinity. And like I said, I never get starstruck, but when it came to her, I felt some. I felt a little something happening here because I'm a diehard Michael Jackson fan. Like, he was the first artist that I ever listened to. He's my favorite artist of all time. So the fact that we had a Jackson in the building, that was like, whew, that was big for me.
Damn.
Yeah.
And was this like around the intern time, or had you graduated a bit?
So I was front desk at that time. Yeah. So, it's kind of crazy because I was in charge of. I handled the payment for the situation. So the fact that I handled something for the Jackson estate.
Okay,
like,
so you were part of the transaction.
I was part of the transaction for sure, that's accomplishment enough for me. The fact that I handled that when it comes to Janet Jackson, part of the Jackson family, like I don't even need to work with her. Like, the fact that I did that and I got to talk with the engineer, because I was cool with the engineer who worked with her too. Shout out John L. And yeah, he's amazing engineer, and he worked with her. He kind of gave me the breakdown of what it was like. So the fact that I was in the vicinity, I heard what it was like to work with her, I handled the payment. That's good enough. Like, that was good enough for me.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll get you out of here on this one. So, what would you say are some tips, advice that you would have for? I don't even want to say like necessarily just for people who are trying to break into this business, but like producers, sound engineers, even rappers. Like, what would you say is like the advice you would give when it comes to like pursuing this?
The biggest thing is you gotta love it. That's number one. Like, it's a hard battle. It's long days, early nights, and there's a lot of people who fall through the cracks here. Like, there's certain people who, you know, they complain about the hours or complain about the pay, and that just comes with the territory when it comes to working from the ground up in this industry. Like, a lot of times you start off working for free, and that's just what it is. You gotta clean the trash. You gotta unclog the toilet.
I hear that.
That's what you gotta do.
Right.
But if you really have a passion for this, and you have no desire to do anything else, like that could lead you in the direction you need to go. Like, you gotta have a combination of other things too. Like you gotta have the talent for it, but you can work on that. You can work every day. Like, basically, like, the biggest 2 things I'll say is you gotta love it and just don't ever stop.
Gotcha.
Because if you don't ever stop, like, it's inevitable. Like, you're gonna make it, and making it may not be what you currently perceive it to be. So, like, yeah, I have dreams and aspirations, but like a lot of times, life ends up pivoting you another way.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'll give you an example, not related to music at all. Deion Sanders. You familiar with Deion Sanders?
Right.
He's
Prime.
prime time. He was a superstar athlete. Played football, played basketball, played baseball. Was excellent in all of them. Was one of the best to ever do it. People say that he's one of the greatest athletes. People say that he's the greatest athlete of all time. But anyway, he's entering a place in his life where he says that this is what his purpose is, and he's the head coach for the Colorado Buffaloes right now, and he's instilling a lot of enlightenment and empowerment and wise words and to all these to the youth, to his son, his children, all of his kids that are at the program. And when he started playing football, he didn't think he was going to be a head coach like 30 years down the line. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the same deal with this, like with the music shit. It's like, yeah, you could start off being a rapper, or you could start off being a producer, or you could start off being an engineer. Like I started off as a producer. I didn't think I was going to be an engineer from that, and I'm an engineer now, and I work at one of the top tier studios in the city, and I'm an engineer now. That's getting my foot in the door. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be an executive at one point in my life. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So it's like you may not know what the destination is, but as long as you have goals and you strive towards that and you never stop and you love it, that's it. That's all you need.
That's dope. So I'll ask one bonus question.
Sure.
Selfishly. So what are some tips you'd have for content creators, or in my case, podcasters, to get some like professional studio quality audio without like the professional studio setup or even like formal training?
In terms of like sort of like podcasting and like music, like artists as well.
Yeah, like just having the quality without
Right.
necessarily having the studio level equipment or even the
Right.
training.
Right. I mean, it's all in just a couple pieces of gear, to be honest. Like I have a little home studio set up, and all you really need is an interface, a microphone, computer, and all the cables that go along with it, headphones, and speakers would be ideal as well. So if you just have those things, you have a home studio.
Okay.
Yeah, you can, and it's just, the quality will depend. There's certain gear out there where you can get it for a solid price, and it'll sound pretty good. Like, you just gotta do your research, know where you're buying it from. Ask if you have any audio people that you know of, ask them. There's sweetwater.com. You can call people and ask them questions about audio. They're all geniuses over there. So that's all you really need. Just microphone, laptop, interface, cables, headphones, speakers. Good.
All right, sounds good to me.
Yeah,
I appreciate this, Philly the Kid.
for sure.
And thank you for listening to the Well Actually podcast. Please remember to rate, review, of course, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And we're going to try and do this again another time.